4 days earlier. She came to Seoul to close a deal. He had already decided. The answer was no. Neither of them knew what was actually about to happen.
He closed the folder. I watched his face when he did. And I thought, there it is.
Her name is Adunni Bello. She flew 14 hours from Abuja to Seoul. 1 carry-on, 1 document case. No assistant, no entourage. Just her and everything she had already prepared.
Seoul. I've read everything about this city, everything about his company, everything about him. He hasn't read a single thing about me. That's the first advantage. 1987. Hyundai offered him 3 times his annual revenue, and his grandfather said no, because the terms would have cut his driver's wages. He chose his people over the money. That's not a business decision. That's a value system. And if I understand his value system, I already know how to build something he cannot refuse.
Day 1. He had already decided before she walked through the door. She knew that. She had prepared for that. What she had not prepared for was finding it interesting.
He didn't offer me tea. His assistant placed it in front of him only. I noticed. I said nothing. I filed it away. Everything tells you something if you're paying attention. Turn it over when I leave. I planned that line 3 weeks ago in Lagos at my desk at 2 a.m. He'll turn it over before I reach the elevator. I already know that too.
Day 2. She wore burgundy. Not for him. Never for him. But the room didn't know that.
He looked at his documents, then at me, then back at his documents, then at me again. I pretended not to notice. I noticed everything. Your own numbers read differently. I didn't change a single figure. I just read what was actually there. He published the data. He just never looked at it the right way.
He said no. She had expected that. She had packed an answer for that too. Page 47. She had been waiting 2 days to show him page 47.
No. That's what they always say first. It means they're afraid of something. My job is to figure out what. Page 47 will tell him. I already know.
They talked about her at the table in Korean. They assumed she didn't understand. She understood every word.
He just said, Seojun won't sell to an African firm. He said it right in front of me, in Korean, because he assumed I wouldn't know. I have spoken Korean for 4 years. I considered saying nothing. I decided not tonight. I found it in a national archive 18 months ago, before I knew I would come to Seoul, before I knew his name. I read it and I understood what kind of man built this company and what kind of man was trying to protect it. He just doesn't know yet that I'm not a threat to it. I'm the reason it survives.
The lawyers left the room. For the first time in 3 days, it was just the two of them. And something in the room shifted. It was midnight. He went to the rooftop when problems wouldn't solve themselves. She went to the rooftop for the same reason. Neither of them had planned for the other.
I didn't plan to say that. I said it anyway. Because it's true. And because standing there with Seoul below us, it felt like the wrong time to be strategic. There are moments when the truth is the only move left.
She told him not everything, just enough. She had spent 4 years in Seoul telling no one who her father was. Not because she was ashamed, because she needed to know that what she built was hers.
My father built something, and people tried to take it when he was vulnerable. They came with money and contracts and reasonable explanations. I watched that happen. I was 12 years old. I decided then that I would learn to read what was actually being offered before I said yes to anything. That is why I am sitting on this rooftop in Seoul at midnight with you. I placed coffee where he would sit. He didn't offer me tea on day one. I am not doing this to make a point. I am doing this because I pay attention and because he takes it black with no sugar. I read that in a 2019 profile piece. Details matter. They always matter.
She had not come to take his company. She had built a structure that gave Bellotech 40%, while he kept 60% and everything he actually cared about. Creative control, cultural direction, the name above the door. She built it around a letter from 1987, around his grandfather's values, before she ever met him.
There. That's the moment. When it stops being a proposal and becomes something he recognizes. I built this for him. Not to impress him. Not to win. Because the company deserves to survive. And this is how it survives. He's beginning to understand that. I can see it in the way he turned the page.
He took the Hyundai letter off the wall. He placed it on his desk, beside her proposal. And then he made a call. Not to his lawyers, not to his board, to the only person whose answer still mattered to him.
My grandfather would have liked you. 4 days, 14 hours on a plane, 18 months of preparation. And he said, my grandfather would have liked you. I picked up my pen. I signed. Because that was the only answer worth giving.
The deal was signed. And then his lawyer produced a third document, one that nobody had submitted.
This is not a business document. He is inviting Bellotech to co-develop the West African expansion. Full creative partnership. He wrote it himself. His lawyer didn't know about it. His board didn't know about it. He wrote it last night. He said, "I'm inviting you. Bellotech is yours." I have been in many boardrooms. Nobody has ever said that to me. I'll sign this one in Lagos. He should see where the other half of this lives.
It was her last evening in Seoul. No documents, no legal teams, no USB drives, just two people who had spent 4 days performing, finally stopping.
He reached into his jacket, not for his phone, not for a pen, something else. He placed it on the table, carefully. The way you place something you have placed carefully, many times before. I looked at it, and I recognized the edge of old paper, the 1987 Hyundai letter, not the framed copy, the original, worn at the edges, folded 4 times. He has been carrying this in his wallet. He said, "Nobody has ever done what I did. Found it, understood it, built something around it. I touched the edge of the paper. I did not pick it up. Keep it. It belongs with you. But thank you for letting me see it." I wrote him a note, 2 lines. I have written longer proposals. I have written better documents. But those 2 lines were the most honest thing I wrote in Seoul. The Hyundai letter is why I came. Your grandfather made the right choice. So did you. I didn't sign it. He would know who it was from.
She came to Seoul to close a deal. She closed something else too. She went home to Lagos, and she took nothing with her that wasn't already hers, except, perhaps, the beginning of something she hadn't planned for. 6 months later, in Seoul, a new sign went up. Seojun Bellotech, West Africa Division. In Lagos, Adunni Bello was laughing on the phone. On her desk, beside the signed partnership, was a copy of the Hyundai letter. He had sent it to her anyway. She had told him to try not to be too disciplined about it. He stepped out of the airport, and Lagos introduced itself. Loud, warm, completely itself. He looked up and saw her. For the first time, without the boardroom.
This is the first time we hear warmth in her voice. Welcome to my city. This is where I come from. This noise, this light, this heat. In Seoul, I learned to be still, precise, patient. Here, I learned everything else. Come. Lagos will teach you things Seoul never could. He followed me through the market. In Seoul, he was always 1 step ahead, or trying to be. Here, he just followed. I showed him 2 fabrics. He chose the bold one, without hesitation. I didn't expect that. Seoul teaches you to choose the safe one. Lagos was already working on him.
Her father had 3 contacts in Seoul who could have closed that deal in 1 phone call. She hadn't called him. He already knew that. And he already knew what it meant.
My father shook his hand, held it a moment longer than needed. He does that when he's deciding something. He looked at me, just once, the way he looks at me when I have done something he would have done himself. I did not call him. I did not use his name. I did not use his contacts. I walked in with my own proposal and my own research and my own name. And I closed it. He knows that. That is enough. I showed him 2 fabrics, the safe choice and the Lagos choice. In Seoul, he would have chosen the safe one, every time. But we were not in Seoul. He chose the Lagos one. So I gave him 3 days. Or rather, I told him the truth and let him give himself 3 days. There is a difference. I am always aware of the difference. I watched him put on the Ankara shirt. In Seoul, he wore charcoal and navy and charcoal again. Standing on my rooftop in Lagos golden hour, in blue and gold Ankara, he laughed. A real one. Not the professional courtesy laugh, not the polite acknowledgement. A real one. I thought, there you are. There's the actual person.
Lagos golden hour does something to people. It makes them temporarily unable to pretend. He stood there in an Ankara shirt, laughing for the first time in 4 days. And she watched him, the way you watch something you weren't expecting to find beautiful. He went back to Seoul. Same office, same city, same charcoal suit. But on his desk, an Ankara shirt, folded. And on his wall, her signature beside his. Seoul looked exactly the same. He did not.
My father wants to renegotiate 1 clause. The one that says, you only visit quarterly. He said he'd review it. He'll come. Lagos has a way of making people want to come back.
2 cities, 1 deal. 1 company built by a grandfather who chose his people over the money. 1 woman who flew 14 hours to make sure it survived. Neither of them were the same when it was over. That is what happens when the South meets Seoul. Seoul South.